ahead. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Princeton Review's webinar. This evening, we are going to be discussing 2017 college admissions data and all of the things that you need to know to help you with your college admissions journey. So my name is Anna, and I am with the Princeton Review's national marketing team, and I'll be helping out with tonight's presentation. And in just a moment, I am going to introduce our presenter, Lisa McLaughlin, who is our Director of College Admissions Outreach here at the Princeton Review. She's actually been a college admissions counselor with over 20 years of experience in the field of admissions counseling. So she has a ton of great information that she is ready to share with you this evening. But before we get started, I just want to go over two housekeeping things with you guys for everyone that is joining us this evening. First of all, everyone's lines are muted. So if you do have a question or a comment, or there's something that you'd like to share with us, please do so by using the question chat box on your GoToWebinar control panel. And secondly, then, this webinar presentation is being recorded. And so all of the folks that have attended this evening will receive an email by tomorrow evening with the link to this webinar's recording. So don't feel, if you don't want to take notes, just, sit back, relax, listen to what we have to say. Let us know what questions you have, and we'll be happy to answer them towards the end of the presentation. All right. And so without further ado, I am actually going to hand this right over to our presenter for the evening, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. I am so excited. This is actually the first webinar that I will be hosting for the Princeton Review, and I'm so excited that we're here. I'm actually right now in Austin, Texas, and I'll let you know where I'm from in a minute. But I wanted to actually let you know before I give you an introduction a little bit more about who I am. We are excited because we're actually starting a college admissions hour, and that's what we're obviously doing tonight, and it is a Tuesday. But just so you know, for every month from now on, the first Tuesday of every month, the same time, 8 o'clock Eastern, we're actually going to be hosting this college admissions hour. So we hope that you'll join us. You will need to pre-register. The topics will be online soon. Next month, just so you know, I believe it's on August 1st. I'm actually going to be doing a webinar that is all about, it's perfect for back to school time. So it's going to be, your grade level guide to college admissions. And the topics that I will be going over every month are really appropriate for all grade levels. In a minute, I'm going to find out, who you are and the age of your students, or the age of you if you are a student. But lots of great information that I'm going to go over in September. It's parenting your college-bound students, so the students really won't be on that one. But I'm going to talk about really how to improve the college conversations in your home. And October, there's going to be a focus on extracurriculars. So lots of great information and really timely information that's going to coincide with the college admissions calendar. So I do hope that you're going to join me for that. I'll be hosting most of them. Again, you will need to pre-register for the webinars. And I'm also going to talk to you a bit today at the end about our college admissions counseling program that we have here at the Princeton Review and what that entails. So that way you can have some information about our experts and what it is we do. So I do hope that you will make this as interactive as possible. I know that you're all on mute and you can't, talk to me and ask questions, but there is that box there for you, and I do hope that you'll ask them. There's some polls that'll be scattered throughout as well, and I hope that you'll join in so we can, identify your own knowledge base. And it would be great just for you to interact as much as possible. So to start off, just so you know, hopefully this is going to work here. There we go. So Anna's actually in New York, and I am normally on the West Coast from South Orange County, and a lot of my college admissions counseling experience is definitely based on the West Coast, but I know a lot about what goes on nationally. So that's, sort of where we're from. And what I'd like to know actually next, as I go over a little bit more about my background, is if there's the poll that I'd like for you to answer at this point is where you're from. So you'll see in the drop down the menu some options. So East Coast, South, where are you from? If you could sort of click that right now, maybe you're international, and we'll have Anna in a minute fill in and let us know where everyone's tuning in from, which is always very exciting for me. And that way I can kind of see what we're dealing with here, it would be great.
Yeah, so
You
Lisa,
can kind of work on that, and then
yeah, we have actually about 50% of the folks joining us tonight from the East Coast. So welcome everyone. And about 24% from the West Coast. And we have a small group from international as well. About 17% from the South. And a couple of you are also from the Mid-Atlantic. So mostly East Coast.
Okay, so 8 o'clock seems to work well for a lot of people. All right, well that sounds great. And then actually there's another poll if we can ask that as well. Oops, sorry about that. There's another question about, I would also like to know what your graduating high school class year is as well. So if you can kind of pop that up, Anna.
Yep.
How I would do it.
Okay, we got some answers coming in. Looks like it's a pretty clean split between 2018 class year graduation and 2019.
Okay, so no younger, huh? Not a lot of younger?
No, nobody. No younger.
Okay,
no younger.
Okay, so juniors and seniors. Okay, that's actually good. That's good information for me to know. Well, you've all come to the right place. So let me tell you a little bit more about who I am. So I have more than 20 years of experience in the field of college admissions counseling, and I have worked on both sides of the desk. So I was a high school teacher and counselor working with a college readiness program, and I've counseled hundreds, if not, I think thousands of students if you cover all the presentations that I've done nationally. So I've counseled a lot of students when it comes to college admissions. I was also a former application reader for the UC, or the University of California system. So I'm really familiar with, the kind of the public university admissions. I was involved when they made a really big change from sort of more objective admissions to more holistic admissions, where they're looking at the whole student. So a lot of experience with that. I am a national trainer, so I travel, I train about college admissions. I speak on lots of different college admissions trends, so I have to be in the know, from admissions directors, financial aid directors, and listening to really what's going on and keeping my finger on the pulse of what's happening in college admissions. I'm also a published author. I was a columnist in the LA Times for a series called The College Conversation, so I have a lot of writing under my belt on how to really engage your students and for the students to stay engaged in the process. And I talked a lot about how to really make sure that your students are taking the reins in the college admissions process, and I might cover a little bit of that tonight as well. So yeah, just really, expert advisor to, hundreds of families, and right now I'm, the director of outreach for college admissions for the Princeton Review, so it's kind of exciting. What we are going to talk about tonight, and it's based on a lot of different reports and data. I use the NACAC, which is National Association of College Admissions Counseling. They do a state of college admissions report. And so, I culled through that really fat, 42-page document and made sure that I really hit on some of these important trends that have come out of that. There's a Gallup poll that was done, Pew Research Center, National Student Clearinghouse. So I've done the work for you and gone through that and really identified what I feel are the top 5 trends that are going to help you as juniors and seniors and future applicants as you go through this process. I'm going to give you some very timely advice and specific advice that connects to these trends and how it might affect your admissions process and the decisions that you're making right now, especially if you're a rising senior and you're creating your list and deciding whether or not you want to apply early. We're going to talk about that, and all of it really based on what happened this past year with different applicants and the candidates and the percentages and all that that came out. And then in the end, I'm definitely going to talk about what edge, the admissions edge that you'll get if you choose to work with us here at the Princeton Review and work with our team of college admissions experts. So without further ado, I have another poll because this actually is going to be connected to a trend. So what I'd like to know is, okay, so we've got some juniors and seniors, whether a student or a parent. What I want you to do is when it comes, think about this, when it comes time for you to apply to college, whether it's going to be right now you're starting to apply or next year or later, or if you're a parent, estimate, don't ask your student, no, you can do this together. I want to know how many colleges you think you're going to apply to.
Okay.
I need to fix something on my screen. I'm sorry.
So we have answers coming in now, Lisa, and it looks like about 50% of the attendees are saying that they are planning to apply to 6 to 8 colleges. A couple of you are saying 3 to 5.
Okay.
Yep, and a couple of them are saying 9 to 11. But mostly in the 6 to 8 range is the majority.
Okay, 6 to 8. Okay, so well, I'm gonna respond to that in a minute. And I apologize for my screen for some reason, Anna. Every time the poll comes up, it's popping out of the main screen. So I don't know if can you guys see that when that's happening, Anna?
I did not.
Okay, so I apologize to the people who are watching if that happens. I don't know why that's going on my computer, but okay. So let's talk about this. So the first trend that I want to talk about is the reality check for you all. Okay, this is admissions it's an absolute numbers game. Okay, colleges have a bottom line. They are businesses, right? And they have a profit. They need to make their profit margin. And so it's important, and I think that we forget this, right? That there are a lot of invisible factors that you know nothing about that take place on the institution side when they're making a decision, okay? And sometimes you can predict some of those things, but for the most part, they're a business. So they have to really think about not only the types of students that they want on their campus, but they also have to think about, okay, once you're admitted, are you going to accept that decision? Are you going to then go to that school? And so I want to talk a little bit about that, and that's actually called yield. So something for you to know, obviously. So application numbers are absolutely up. Okay, so when you hear that these selectivity rates are really low right now, you need to really keep in mind the reason, okay? The reason is that a lot of most students, almost all students, okay, from most colleges now are applying online. So whether it's through the school zone application, whether it's through something called the common application, the universal application, another one that's coming out or just started called the coalition application, it's way, way easier now for students to apply to college. So yes, there are far more students applying, which automatically is going to affect and lower usually the acceptance rate, right? But for the colleges, they now have to think about that yield. So, yield is of the students the college chooses to accept, that number is the percent of those admitted students that accept the offer. Well, why does yield matter? Well, there's something called the U.S. News and World Report, and if you've heard us at the Princeton Review talk about it, that's one way to measure whether or not a college is strong. But a lot of internationally, a lot of people look at the U.S. News and World Report to determine whether or not a college is, quote, good. And if you've heard from our editor-in-chief, Rob Franek, and you're following any of the admissions news, you know that it's one way to measure a school, and there's a lot of people who feel it's not necessarily the best way to measure a school, because part of that U.S. News and World Report ranking has to do with if your college has a lower acceptance rate and a higher yield, you actually end up having a higher ranking. Okay, so that's why you might be a student that is not Harvard material. Okay, we'll just say that. Maybe you're a student who you don't have the GPA to even, reach that type of school. You don't have the activities, you don't have the test scores, you don't have it, but you're getting mailed a ton of information from Harvard, and maybe you're even getting, hey, we want you to apply. Well, it's because they're trying to drive up the amount of students that are going to apply to that school, because then their acceptance rate is going to be lower. Okay, and that, it's not really that fair, right? That's something, but that is something that they're doing. It is a numbers game, okay, in order for them to look better in certain rankings. So what gets really confusing for colleges is this whole idea of, okay, so you've applied now, but how do we know whether or not you're going to accept our offer? So something that you really need to do, my advice for you, and you may have heard this before, but I want to go into it in a little bit of detail, is please don't be a stranger as you go through this process with the colleges. You need to declare and show your love to the college early and often. Okay, develop a relationship with this college. Okay, you don't want to be annoying, and parents especially, I would say, you should not be calling admissions offices on behalf of your students. You should not be calling and asking a bunch of questions. Believe it or not, some colleges actually track that stuff, okay? And so taking the reins, it's the student that has to really do this, but you want to identify and demonstrate your interest. How do you do that? Ways to do that. Obviously, a college visit, okay? That's a great way for you to really show that you're serious about attending a college. Some schools, it doesn't matter. A lot of public institutions honestly don't really care if you apply or not. It's a numbers game for them. They have a ton of students applying. But the smaller schools, the private schools, a lot of them will care whether or not you visited. I've told students this for years. If you're applying, I live in California. If you are applying to a school that's, less than a couple of hours from where you live and you don't visit, and that college cares about your demonstrated interest, that's going to kind of look bad. Because why would a college think that you're going to accept their offer if you haven't even taken the time to go visit the school, especially if it's close, okay? Another thing that you can do to demonstrate your interest is you can follow on social media, okay? So you can, like their Facebook pages, you can look at some of the groups. We're going to talk about social media later, the dangers of it as well, but in a positive way, especially if you're a senior right now and the colleges don't know you exist. Are you on an email list for a college? If there's an interview, did you sign up to interview? Be thinking about how you're demonstrating your interest. We're going to talk in a minute about early plans and whether or not that's a way to demonstrate interest by applying early and what that is. But you have to be showing that you exist. You do not want to be a stranger in this process. It's extremely important because it's going to be easier for a college to say, okay, here's a student who visited, who's, if they track it, here's a student who has liked our Facebook page and lots of different things. And, oh, wow, we want to accept them. And they seem like they're a really serious applicant and that they like our school. So that's something that I highly, highly urge you to make sure that you're doing in this process. The next trend that I want to talk about has to do with early. Okay, and that's what I just had brought up. So the early bird catches the worm, and this is extremely important. More colleges than ever are offering what's called early application plans. And I want to go over this a little bit, especially for you if you have a rising senior. So just so you know, there are students right now that are already applying to colleges, okay? The common application is not one that even can be submitted yet, okay? That's not able to be submitted for the new year until after August 1st for the fall of 2018. However, there are colleges that have rolling admissions. There are colleges that are already accepting applications. So if you're a senior, it's time for you to get started on those things, and especially if these applications are what's called on a rolling cycle. But there are a lot of colleges that also offer early plans. So there's early decision, okay, ED, early decision, is when you apply to a school by their deadline. Usually it's November at some point, and usually it's by November 1st or November 15th. And if you're admitted early to that school, usually you find out, around the holidays, maybe January. If you're admitted, you have to attend that school, and you also have to rescind. You have to make sure that you remove all your other applications that you have in play. There's some exceptions to that, but for the most part, you accept that offer and usually you get your financial aid offer at the same time, so you can decide whether or not it's going to work or not. But you have to. If you get accepted, that is where you're going to attend. That's early decision. And early action it's an earlier deadline. Same thing, usually in November, some it's the beginning of December. You apply to that school, and if you get in, great. You have it in your back pocket. You can still go. You can still continue to, apply to other schools and everything, but you don't necessarily have to go to that school. Okay, so those are the two main ones. There's some other ones, but there's a later webinar that I'll be hosting a little bit more about that. But those are the main things. So the early applicants often are securing a higher percentage of a freshman class. Okay, so what you have to know is that when you apply early, it does demonstrate interest, especially if you apply early decision. And colleges are using that to improve their yield. Okay, because if you apply early decision, you automatically have to go. And so that they're able to say, hey, we can secure 30–40% of our freshman class by offering early decision, because these are students who love our school. We know they're going to accept a spot. So For students who are really competitive applicants, okay, so if you have that GPA, those test scores, and you have other things going for you compared to the average class, the average students that were accepted in years prior, you look at the profile, you feel like, hey, I'm a really strong applicant for this school, and it is a school that you're very serious about and you're in love with, you really, really want to strongly consider applying in an early round. It's just better. And I mean, I'll try to pull up some of these statistics as well, but it's something for you to definitely understand. I mean, there's every year the students that apply early it's bigger and bigger. There's more students. I think last year alone, I want to say there was an increase in almost 10% of students that were accepted, in that round. So you definitely want to be highly, highly considering applying early. And the other thing that is also early is the FAFSA. That started last year. The FAFSA is the major financial aid application for federal financial aid, and that actually opens now October 1st of the student's senior year. And it's important to be also doing that early because more than 56% of admissions officers that were polled said that they're actually going to be now offering admissions earlier in their cycle than normal because they have the financial aid information earlier. They're able to also offer financial aid awards earlier. So delaying when you apply is never a good idea. And rule of thumb is really, ideally, if you can get most of your applications, if you're a strong candidate, you can get most of your applications done in November, what a great way to now spend your senior year. You can actually study, right? Because that's what you're going to do, because you're going to make sure you maintain your grades. But you really want to think about the timeline for admissions now, because more students are applying early, so don't get left out. Make sure that you're doing that. So how do you know if applying early is right for you? And maybe that's a question that came up, and I hope that you are asking questions. That's something that I would really like for you to do. So how do you know if it's right for you? Well, first of all, if you're a senior, hopefully you're organized at this point, okay? You should already be getting started on brainstorming for your college essays right now, okay? You're going to have a main personal statement. The common application questions are popular. They're popular, they're out, you can look them up, you can find them, you can get started already on that. So you are organized, you know where you want to apply, you have some top schools that you're thinking about right now, and you look and you take a solid, hard look and honest reality check look at your profile, and you see that you're a pretty strong candidate compared to students that were admitted in the years past. So by applying early, you might actually gain an edge, and you might be able to secure a spot early. Who is applying early not right for? Okay, and maybe I should have said it that way. So if you're a student that you are not done testing, like you're still going to be testing maybe into November and December as a senior, then applying early may not be right for you, because you may not have the scores that you want, and so your file is not necessarily complete. Okay, and you want the colleges to be able to get the best picture of who you are as a test taker and who you are as a student. So maybe you haven't tested yet. Hopefully you have, but maybe you haven't, or maybe you're taking a prep course with us and you want more time. You haven't even started that yet, and you want to do it in the fall. So think about timeline-wise, what it is you can handle. And if you don't feel like your applicant file is going to be complete, between now and the end of October, then maybe you do need to wait to apply and file those applications. But for the most part, and we highly advise for rising seniors that if you're still going to be taking these exams that you're prepping right now, you're taking August, September tests if you need to, maybe October for the SAT, maybe even subject texts in November if you're applying to really selective schools as a senior, and then that you're done. For you to be testing further along is that's a bulk of your senior year. So you want to think about that, whether or not you would be a strong candidate for applying early. Who else should not be applying early? Well, if you're not a extremely strong candidate, you want to look at whether that college, when they're in that early round, some colleges they cut you off at the knees when it comes to admissions. In other words, they will either accept or reject you in the early round, okay? if it's that type of college that doesn't have what's called a deferral process, where they defer you to the regular round, then you need to think about, okay, am I really a strong enough candidate for that early round? Okay, and you can look at statistics from years past to evaluate that. Some colleges defer, a lot of colleges, because it's a numbers game and they're trying to figure out their yield, will defer a large percentage, like half or more actually of that early class into the regular round. So you want to examine all of that and look at that data to decide whether or not you're going to be a strong enough candidate, because you want to be careful. You know, there's some colleges that are sort of notorious for, well, if you don't meet the mark, they're going to, automatically reject you in the early round, where if you would have waited for the regular decision, then maybe you would have, had more of a chance. So look at that as well, and I think that will help you to make a good decision on that. Hopefully you're asking your questions, because that may have brought up a lot for you. Okay, so for the next admissions trend that I want to bring up is this whole idea that, what is the value of a college education? And people have said that for years, but we hear it a lot more. We hear it in media all the time. We're looking at students that have a huge amount of debt, and whether or not there's this return on investment for going to college. And something for you to know is there was actually a study that was just done that came out, Gallup-Purdue study, 2016, and they polled college graduates, and 1 in 6, this was actually kind of amazing to me, 1 in 6 college graduates actually felt that their career center was helpful. So, 5 out of 6 did not feel that it was helpful. So with that, that really says a lot about, well, if your career center on campus is not helpful and they're not doing anything to make sure that you are employed or employable upon graduation, what does that mean? What does that mean for you as the student? What does that mean for you as the parent? That's extremely important. Those are all definitely things that you need to think about. And debt absolutely matters, right? So schools are asking in the admissions process, okay, what are you going to do for us, right? How are you going to contribute to our school? Well, parents are saying, okay, well, what will your education, give my child when it comes to career and it comes to their future? So there are definitely some things that, that you can do. I have a poll actually here that I want to ask you, and can you put that up?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. I wanted to make sure. For some reason, I had a different question on my list. So I'd like to know what you think, whether or not colleges expect you to declare a major at the time of application. And then, we'll have Anna share that in a minute.
Yeah, so true or false. And pretty much everyone, the majority of folks are saying false. 63% of them are saying false. 37 are saying that it's true. Yeah.
Okay. So, the little bit split on that. So, just so nationwide, most colleges do not expect that you declare a major at the time of your application. And the majority of colleges nationally will say that you have until usually the end of your sophomore year for you to actually decide what your major is going to be. Okay. Now, the downfall of that could be that if you wait that long, you might lose you might lose credits because you're dabbling in a lot of different types of majors and different courses, and they don't go towards your major. So you have to be careful about that, right? Because that could delay your graduation. But what's something that I want to share with you is we have a national survey that we do every year, and it's our Hopes and Worries survey. And this is interesting if you look at this. So when we looked at, what are your greatest college hopes? And students and parents were both surveyed, and it's combined. But if you look at this, 41% are looking for a college with the best program, okay, either for your or your child's career interests, okay? 42% are looking at overall fit, okay? And then you have the other, most affordable, college with best reputation. But if you look at this, this is important because a lot of you have students, or you as a student, you have no clue what you want to major in, right? But what you have to think about is, well, what are some of the academic interests that you have or that your student has, and what is the college going to do to help to groom that, to help to grow that, to help your student to figure that out, okay? Because, you know, when I'm working with students, the majority of my students don't know what they want to major in, okay? And what, you know, we do here at the Princeton Review is we definitely try to help you with your majors. We try to help, we don't want to, you know, pigeonhole you into one major necessarily, but we want you to think about how do majors connect to your academic strengths, and what are some things. We do a pretty extensive research process with you to make sure that when you're creating your college list, it's one of many factors that we look at when we're creating a very personalized list for you, because the fit of a school isn't necessarily going to connect to just your career interests, because we know that you probably will change your mind, okay? So schooling here in the United States is different, we know, than in other countries. And in some other countries, you do have to decide, you know, at the age of 14, sometimes younger actually, what you want to do with the rest of your life. And, you know, if you decide that, in some it's test-based, right? You take a test, and that test is going to let you know whether or not you're going to go to school to be a doctor or an engineer. Well, we don't have that here, okay? But we know that it's a concern. We want you to make sure you graduate, that you have, you know, either have a job or you're more employable, right? So one of the pieces that we want you to think about and look at is that return on investment, okay? And this is something that I feel that we at Princeton Review, we're really great at this. We have some amazing resources. We have a brand new edition of, you know, colleges that pay you back, and that's going to look at career placement, financial aid, and, you know, schools that offer lower loans, and they offer a, you know, better grants and scholarships and internships and things like that. And we focus on the colleges that we feel are really going to pay you back. But you want to look at the return on investment. So you want to look at way more than just the career placement statistics at a college. And I'll say that that's the career placement. That's something that a lot of admissions directors actually believe that some of that information is a little bit false, and it's hard to really track, because just because you have a lot of recruiters on campus doesn't necessarily mean that the students are placed. So there's a lot there. But what my recommendation for you is that you are looking at freshman programs that really engage that student in good conversations about their academic interests, about their major. Maybe there's freshman mentoring programs. You want to look for that. And you as a student, especially if you really don't have a clue about what you want to study, which again is very normal, okay? It's very normal for your age and where you're at. But you want to look, when you're examining and researching colleges, you want to look at internship opportunities that are available. You want to look at, okay, I am an undeclared, you know, a clueless student as far as what I want to study. What are you, university or professors or older students or mentors, going to do to help me to figure it out, okay? So, you know, I tell people this personally. I started college at the University of Colorado at Boulder. That's where I started as a very young 17-year-old. And I kid you not, I changed majors 6 times in less than a year and a half, okay? And what happened? I lost a ton of time. I was just dabbling around. Nobody was helping me. It was obviously a long time ago, but that I lost time on that. And I ended up at a school, you know, where I graduated from, where their career center was really helpful. I was paired up with someone who was my academic advisor. There was a lot that happened to really help me, to guide me towards my major, which ended up being an English major. And so you want to make sure that that college has a lot of ways that they're going to help you to figure it out. And I think that's really, really important. The other piece is whether or not there are alumni career mentors at that school. So what that looks like, and whether or not there's that strong relationship. And when you're visiting campuses, because you're juniors and seniors, you said most of you, so I want you to think about that. Of course, the college is going to have a career center. Most colleges do, but is it even used? Okay, so when you go through there, look at what's in there and see how up to date it is, and is it busy, and look at that, and ask students, you know, to find out what the college is doing to help you later, to make sure that you have a path that you're on, and so you're not just sort of dabbling and wandering aimlessly, you know, trying to figure this out on your own. It would be great for you to have support. So definitely look at those things. I feel like that is going to help you a great deal. And like it is definitely a trend. I mean, like I said, 1 in 6 feel that their career center was not useful. So, I'm sorry, was useful. So important data there. Okay, your admissions trend number 4, I like to call this show me the money. So something that's happening, and it started, I want to say, I started seeing great increase in this about 5 years ago, but it really picked up about 3 years ago. Your in-state public college is absolutely increasing its enrollment, increasing its admissions opportunities or invitations to out-of-state and international students. So what does that mean for you? And that's something that you really need to think about. And there's obviously a lot of debate about this and whether or not it's fair, but at the same time, your public colleges have such a state budget crisis. A lot of these places, they're getting budget cuts everywhere, that in order to keep the doors open for in-state students, they have to open the doors to out-of-state students and international students. So, you know, it's kind of, there's 2 ways to look at it, and it's here. That's here to stay for a while. So why do they do that? Well, out-of-state tuition at public colleges is much higher, sometimes 3 times the amount of what in-state tuition would be. And they have to do that in order to meet their revenue goals. For example, Michigan, Alabama, California, they've seen really large increases in the out-of-state and international admission. And they have to do that to keep their doors open. I will say, like, North Carolina there's a state mandate. They have to, I don't know if this is exact what this year, but I know that before they had to limit their out-of-state enrollment to only 18%. So the school actually will lose some of its state funding if it goes over that cap. I know UNC Chapel Hill is an example of that. So it's important. Flagship universities, which is usually, you know, the large, well-known university in that state, they're just not growing at the same pace as the applicant pool. So they have to figure out how to get more money. And so what's happening is that they are absolutely enrolling far more students from out of state. And what I want to say about this, actually, I'm gonna ask this poll next, because if I keep talking, I'll give away the answer. But I'd like to know what you think about this. So agree or disagree? Here it comes. So when you look at the net price, okay, so not the sticker price, but the price after, do you think that private colleges are more expensive than public colleges? So agree or disagree? Private colleges are far more expensive than public colleges. What do you think?
Looks like the majority is saying agree, 70%, and 30% disagree.
What was the number?
It was 70% agree that private colleges are far more expensive, and about 30% are disagreeing with that statement.
Okay. So the answer to that is really, it depends, but I will say that far more now, okay, something that you want to think about is that there are a lot of private colleges, and we're not talking about well, I mean, we might be, it depends on your financial need, but a lot of the private schools are offering merit aid, they're offering tuition discounts, they're offering ways that will absolutely reduce that overall tuition. And we have definitely worked with students who are attending private schools because their public college actually was more expensive, believe it or not. And I say that because you really need, my advice to you as you're going through this process is to absolutely have an open mind, okay? You want to expand your college list to include private colleges, some out-of-state colleges, public colleges. You want to have a well-rounded list that really does open the doors and expand the options for you as a student. And you know, trust me, it's important that you really think about throughout the process, because there are what's called tuition reciprocity programs between different regions. Out in the West, there's something called the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or WUE, W-U-E. You can look that up. And that offers tuition reciprocity for certain states. So if you are, for example, a California student, and let's say you have, you know, your grades are strong, but you're not going to be, you know, an applicant maybe for one of the most selective colleges in the nation, but you've got strong grades. University of Nevada at Reno is an example, and if you haven't been to that school, I mean, they have done amazing, amazing things to really expand that campus. The endowment's actually pretty large, and that's a campus where if you're a California student and you go to that college, you actually have a huge tuition discount. Other ones for California students, Colorado State is another one. So you can look at different tuition reciprocity programs. They have them regionally if you just sort of look that up. Other thing to think about is that if you are an in-state student and you are looking to go to an out-of-state public college, some schools are actually trying to recruit you, okay? And they want you because they want geographic diversity on their campus. They want to be able to, have a greater presence globally. They want a wider range in their alumni network. So there are absolutely colleges that will want you, okay, and that will pay you to be there, and you aren't from their state. Alabama is notorious for this. It's something that they do. They recruit students from out of state because they want that diversity on their campus. Kentucky is another. So you want to look around and see, which colleges might be offering some merit aid. Usually, if you do a search for, out-of-state scholarships, so if you're looking at a public school, it'll list for you what the minimums are. You might need a 30 on the ACT or a certain GPA, and if you have that, you automatically get some money. So there are ways for private colleges to be a lot cheaper than that sticker price, and out-of-state colleges. So make sure that you're not just going by a myth of, automatically those colleges are going to be more expensive. You want to really make sure that you have a wide range of options. Keeping an open mind is going to help you and your student a ton throughout this process. So this is actually the last one that I'm going to be talking about tonight, and it is really important that we have this conversation. So Big Brother may be watching. You absolutely may be cyberstalked. And I say this really, it's so important for students to understand this. So there was a recent incident, you can look it up to get the details, but Harvard actually rescinded admission for, I think 10, it might have been more students, for an inappropriate chatter and memes that were taking place on a Facebook site for admitted students. So they looked and they actually took the admission away, okay? There was a new survey from an online reputation management program called Cornerstone Reputation. They actually found that 45% of admissions officers said that they searched online for students who submitted applications. 45%, okay? The year before, it was 36%. So who knows what it's going to be next year, okay? Let's see, another little statistic that came out, 2012, by the way, it was only about 1 in 4. 25% admissions officers said that they used Facebook and they Googled in order to vet applicants. So I'll say, it's not always the bad thing for them, right? They're not always finding negative things. But just so you know, of those that were looking, 40% said they actually found material online that gave them a negative impression of that student. Okay, so if you're a student listening right now, my advice to you is more than just clean it up, okay? My advice is for you to cut it out, okay? And if you are going to sacrifice your social media presence for a year, now's the year for you to do it, okay? Obviously, far bigger conversation, okay, for, well, what are you posting and why are you posting it? But it's important for you to know that, you can't sit there and say that you were blindsided later, like, oh, I had no idea that the admissions officers would be looking. You need to be smart about what's going on in your social media. And it's more than just, your privacy settings, because I hear that from students, oh, no one can see it. It's not something that you should risk. So be really careful about that. You don't want to jeopardize your admissions just because, you have this affair with social media. So it's important. You absolutely are being judged. Okay, and that's my reality check on that this whole process is one about judgment, right? So the colleges are judging how you're going to be on their campus based on what they see. And part of it is your transcripts. They're going to review that. They're going to review your test scores. They're going to review the stories, hopefully excellent, compelling stories that you write. They're going to be judging you on a lot of factors, including possibly what you have going on in your social media. So it's important that you think about that, because that's what this process is about. Again, if you have to make a sacrifice, you do it now. That's basically, those are the admissions trends and the things that I wanted to talk to you about. We're going to get to questions in a minute, but what I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do here at the Princeton Review, and what we do as far as helping you to make sure that you're creating really compelling stories and that you have a clear strategy as you go through this process. We have counselors, all of our counselors actually have experience working in selective institutions. They have experience working on the college admissions side of the desk, and that is hugely beneficial to you. So these are people that have sat, around a committee talking about fighting for students, saying this is why I want a student accepted. These are counselors who have read thousands of essays and have looked at the different stories that people are writing about. These are counselors that have experience reading an essay that they know maybe wasn't written by the student, that was too polished, and it looked like, maybe a mid 40-year-old, late 40-year-old parent had written the essay. So these are counselors that you would be working with. We pair you with not only a counselor, but also a coach. And you are able to work with this coach who you have access to all the time, pretty much. And that coach is basically your project manager. So that coach is going to walk you through the different steps of the process. And it's pretty systematic, but it's also very, very personalized. So the coach is going to help you to make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're meeting those deadlines. For parents that are listening, it takes a huge burden off of you. So the coach is the one that's going to be nagging and making sure that you're moving in the right direction. And the counselor is the admissions guru. So they're going to be there to help to craft the strategy. They're going to be there to help with the, the selection of topics and helping you to make sure that you really put an excellent package together without you looking packaged, if that makes sense. So they're really, really careful about just getting that story out of you and helping to create an application that's going to be really strong, that you're going to put your best foot forward. So we have different packages and things for you. We have packages for rising sophomores, rising juniors, and rising seniors. We work with international students as well. And right now we do have an offer that's just happening now. It's very limited, but we are offering some discounts for the class of 2018 and 2019. And we also have free 45-minute admissions consultations. It's with one of our enrollment experts who's an expert, in the admissions process. And please write down this phone number because you can call. And I think we're actually going to ask, a final poll regarding this consultation. So you can, if you give us this information and you tell us that you want a consultation, we will reach out to you in the next couple of days to get it scheduled. The consultation is absolutely with the parent. It's optional whether or not the student wants to be part of the consultation, but we recommend that. It's not required. But it is a very consultative, they're going to ask some really, really good questions to try to make sure that you have some insider advice, and it is a personalized consultation. So it is free right now at this time. So, I don't know if you want to put that up there, Anna.
Yep.
Our kind of last polling question. Okay. So if you're interested in it, or you even just want to receive more information, if you can, let us know yes or no, and we'll make sure that we reach out to you on that. And it takes place, it's over the phone, but it's a great way for you to get some questions answered. I know that sometimes there's some great urgency, some things that you really, some decisions that you need to make right now if you're a junior or senior. So it's important for you to think about that as well. And that sort of concludes this part of the webinar, but I really want to make sure we take some time to answer questions. So Anna, I'm going to turn it back to you if you want to let me know what the questions are.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm just giving everyone just a few more seconds to answer the last poll in regards to the 45-minute consultation. I want to make sure I've captured everyone that is interested, so we can make sure to reach out to you over the coming days. But yes, we did get a lot of great questions during this session that I am excited to share with you. So why don't we begin with a couple of questions came in when you were discussing the early decision or early admissions application section of the evening. And one student wanted to know if it's true that early decision applicants, is it true that early decision applicants tend to get less financial aid?
Not necessarily, no. Okay, so the question was about if you're an early applicant, do you get less financial aid? Well, that's actually, in a way, it's kind of quite the contrary. Sometimes by applying early, if you apply later, sometimes the financial aid has already been awarded to early applicants in order to secure those top applicants. And maybe you're thinking about early decision, but no, not necessarily. I think that it's important that if you're looking for financial aid, especially need-based financial aid, that you have your FAFSA in on time, so that way when the college makes the decision, they're also able to give you your financial aid offer. But I do feel like that's one of those myths. And what you want to do for whoever asked this, or for you out there, you want to look at whether or not a college is something called need blind or not. If a college is need aware, it means that your admissions may be affected if you need money. And so when you're looking at the common application, it might ask, are you looking for financial aid? I don't remember exactly how it's phrased. But if the college is need aware, then you want to be careful about that because it could affect your admission. But most colleges are need blind, and so it's not something that's really used in the admissions process. I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Okay, another question around early decision was, can you apply early decision to 2 schools, just in case, kind of have a backup?
No, you definitely cannot. And you actually have to sign, it's an electronic signature, but you have to sign that you very clearly understand that. I believe your parents also have to sign, and your school counselor. But when you're applying early decision, you pick one school that you apply to early. Usually you can also apply early action to other schools. You can apply rolling, you can apply regular decision, but you can only apply to one school early decision. That's it. For early action, you can apply to as many early action schools as you want. It's not a big deal, but early decision, you're picking one. And that's why it is important that if you use that strategy in the process and you want to follow an early decision plan, that you really are committed to that school, where if that's a place where you get accepted, you're going to be really, really psyched to go there. So it is a big decision. But, I tell students where, if you're looking at two or three schools that are your top schools, and you would be really happy at all 3, and one of them offers early decision, then usually I say, go for it, offer early, so that way you can clinch a spot if your profile is strong.
Excellent. Okay, so another question that came in is, what happens if you are accepted early decision but feel the financial aid package isn't enough? What recommendations do you have for that situation?
Okay, so this is the one where I was saying this one it's a little bit tricky, but normally what happens, okay, is that you apply early decision and you get your financial aid package at that time. If let's say you get accepted, and then that financial aid package is not what you need in order to go, that's usually the only reason that you're allowed to rescind the offer. That's the only way that you could say it's not going to work for me. I can't attend. So hopefully that answers your question. But there's like NACAC has some, the National Association of College Admissions Counselors has some bylaws, with that. But normally that's the only way out of the early decision contract. But if that happens, usually you have to tell them by beginning of January. So it's not like you can, sort of be fielding other offers, you know, throughout February, March, April, and then say, oh, hey, you know, your money wasn't enough. Usually it doesn't work that way.
Okay, thank you. All right, one other question that came in was, or is, I should say, do colleges check your senior year grades?
Oh, this is a good question. It's a really good question. Okay, so yes, I will say that all of the colleges are going to look at your senior year grades at one point or another. Okay, so senior year is absolutely going to matter, and I will tell you that what a college giveth, they will taketh away. If your profile does not align with the profile they were reviewing when they accepted you, you absolutely can have your admissions rescinded. In the early process, what tends to happen is some colleges will ask for quarter grades, okay, and they usually will ask either your counselor or they'll reach out to you. Some colleges, where it really matters, and this is what, you know, we always like to remind seniors of this, and this is important in the process. Some places, what they'll do is, let's say you apply early, and then they decide, you know what, we're going to defer your admission. We're going to defer your application. Sorry, we're not sure about you yet, you know, but hey, we're not going to say no. But what we want to do now is we want to look at your semester senior grades. We want to look at what's called the 7th semester grades. And, you know, then with that, and then comparing you to the other regular decision applicants, then we'll go ahead and make a decision. So the senior year grades definitely matter. There are more colleges now than ever before that I have seen that won't make a decision until they have your 7th semester grades. So that the whole senior slide and senioritis thing, it absolutely can kill you as an applicant. So it's important also, I will say, that you don't level down in your curriculum in your senior year. You want to make sure you have a rigorous senior year schedule. And I'll tell you, I mean, this is one of the benefits of working with us, is that we're going to make sure the counselor is going to look at your senior course load. We're going to make sure that it is consistent with what it was in the years past. We're going to give you advice that you may not hear in other places. So it's important. It's very, very important that you look at that senior schedule and that you maintain the level of rigor, that you don't, you know, back down, that you don't drop classes second semester because you already were accepted maybe or something. Those things are, senior year is huge, huge, you guys. Make sure that you're staying strong.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. All right. What advice do you have on writing the college application essay?
Okay. Oh, that's a big one. So there's actually an entire webinar, I believe, that's going to be dedicated to that. I think in maybe it's September, October, we're doing one on that. But you know, I'll say now, I mean, because that could be an entire, at least an hour session. But what I can say, my number one piece of advice for you is to get started early on your essay. You don't want to rush it. You want to make sure that you have a topic that's meaningful to you and not to your parents. Okay, that it's something that really, as a student, you know, you feel strongly about it. I recommend that you brainstorm on a variety of the prompts, that even if you read the essay, because for the Common App, you get to pick, you know, which personal statement response you want to respond to. I recommend for students that you start by brainstorming on all of them. And then that way you can kind of see which ones you feel like you have the most to write about. Some of the biggest mistakes that we see with essays, I think that could be a way to rephrase what you asked, is you go far too broad in your topic. You're talking about way too many different things in one essay, that it's really, really important to narrow in your topic, and that you have a story. Another issue that we see a lot is that because students are so used to writing in a non-narrative way, it tends to be really difficult for students to talk about themselves in a personal way. This needs to be more like a narrative and not, you know, an expository English essay. You know, I will say something else that we do offer for rising seniors is we offer, you know, a college essay package where, you know, we can work with you just on your essays. And that's something that you might want to think about if you already have your college list done. We can help you, you know, with one application. We can help you with multiple essays. That's something that we do and really pride ourselves on, again, because we have, you know, these fabulous counselors that have read thousands of essays. So hopefully that helps. I mean, just get started early. Don't wait, because you don't ever want to rush those things. You want to make sure you've got lots of drafts and you're able to go through it and really feel like you're putting your best package together when it comes to the story that you want colleges to understand about you and who you are as a person. So I think maybe we could take one more question.
Yeah, definitely. I want to be considerate of everyone's time. And we're just at the 9 o'clock hour now. So yeah, let's do one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. So one last question. What is the CSS profile, and why is it needed?
Okay, so some colleges require that. So the CSS profile is usually for private schools, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that has a firm deadline as well. And we always like to remind students that don't just do the FAFSA, you also want to do your CSS profile. But they use a different formula. Colleges that use the CSS profile often use a different formula when they're calculating the financial aid. So I recommend look it up. I mean, Google it so you can kind of see what the difference is. But I'll say the majority of students are doing both the FAFSA, which is the federal form, and then also the CSS profile. So you want to look at that and adhere to the deadlines, because once those deadlines are gone, they're gone, and you can't go back to them. So that's something that's kind of important to know. So yeah, so thank you all so much, and I hope I'll let Anna close, but don't forget, first Tuesday of every month we will be hosting a college admissions hour. So I hope that you'll join me again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. One last thing that I just want to note for everyone that did submit questions tonight, and if we did not get a chance to answer them, please do not worry. We will be reaching out to you over the next couple of days with answers to all of the questions that were submitted for this evening's session. Do not fret. We will make sure that you get the information you need to make sure that you are, set in your college admissions journey. Again, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. I found everything tonight super helpful. I hope everyone else listening to us tonight did as well. Keep an eye out on your email for the follow-up email that will have the recording link, so that way you can refer back to this, or if you wanted to listen and watch again, you're free to do so as well. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll hope to see you next month at the next college admissions hour on the first Tuesday. Good night.